Hi, I'm Felicity, a registered nurse, cosmetic injector, and founder of the Fit Injector Clinic. Welcome to my channel and video podcast streaming on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple. Today is episode 9, and I have Shelby here, a registered nurse, cosmetic injector, business owner, and mum joining me. That's a lot.
It's a lot, but
welcome.
It's all the same as you.
Same. I'm so excited to have you here today. Thank you so much.
I'm very excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
So Shelby is the founder of Cosmetic Skin Therapies in Canberra, a cosmetic injectable and cosmetic skin treatment clinic. Today we're going to be chatting about how Shelby and I met. We actually go way back to night shifts in the hospital talking about skin, starting and growing her business, becoming a mum while running her business, and some juicy industry chit chat.
Let's do it.
It's good. So first, Shelby, tell us about you.
Well, what's there to tell? So I'm in my late 20s. I have an 18-month-old. I used to say all the stuff about my business first, and now I say all the stuff about my baby first.
Yeah.
I don't know, priorities maybe.
Totally.
So I have an 18-month-old little boy. I have a beautiful husband, and I happen to have this business in Canberra that takes up a lot of my time. I love it dearly. I do really, really love it. But it takes up a huge amount of my time. I'm incredibly passionate about what I do. And I have a team of 7 now.
Which
so
is
we
just
have
incredible.
Nurses and some admin, and it's mostly fun, but it's also stress.
It's a lot.
And, in my spare time, which is not really much, I sort of just cry. No. No.
I love your honesty.
Mental breakdowns aside, really just hang out with my family and running and enjoying outside and
So
just
good.
trying to, get some life in when I'm not businessing.
Yeah. Trying to find that balance.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
I think balance, the word, it's so elusive.
Yeah.
I've never found it. Is it real?
Is it real? I don't know. I ask every person I do a podcast with, I ask them that question, and I still don't know the answer.
No. I've read quite a few of those self-help books or entrepreneur books, and they all say, oh, you've got to find the balance. But I don't think I've ever read one that says what the balance actually
this is the balance. Yeah. This is how you find it.
And this is how you get to it. So no idea.
I feel like every day is different, right? Some days you're like, I've got it all together. The next day you're like, everything's just,
Chaos. It's organized chaos. And I think, sometimes I think, I'd like less on my plate, but I actually think I'd be bored.
Yeah. And I think once you've got to that level of the amount of stuff you do, you would be like, what do I do with my time?
Yeah. If you said to me, you've got nothing on today.
You'd be like, what?
I would literally not know what to do with myself.
Yeah.
I would probably accidentally just scroll on my phone all day or I don't know, do something really, organize a cupboard or put a new marketing campaign together.
Not do anything.
No, I couldn't lay on the lounge. I don't know. I might have
you don't know how to.
I might have some type of mental health problem.
I think it's just once you are operating at that level, you just don't know how to switch off.
And I feel like before I became a mum, I thought I was busy.
And I thought I was tired.
I thought 100%. I thought I was busy, and I thought I was tired, and I thought I was exhausted, and I thought I was doing it all. And I used to have this saying, it's the art of fitting it all in. And now I'm like, oh, chuck that in the bin. It's just organized chaos every single day. And if at the end of the day, the business hasn't burnt down, the baby's alive, I've said hello to my husband, and I've eaten at least a meal, I think we're doing well.
You've won.
That's it. That's winning. That's balance. That's all there is. Yeah.
I love your honesty. It's brilliant. So tell us about the beginnings of your business.
Right. So I was working I never planned business for myself.
Really?
Absolutely. Never had the ambition at all to run a business. I was working for a company, and they were taken over by a publicly listed company, and it changed drastically. I didn't find myself fitting in there anymore. I went out, had interviews with a lot of clinics around my area in Canberra. Again, couldn't find a fit, didn't really feel like anyone was on the same level or wanted to even get to the same level. I feel like you know, because I was really interested in cosmetic injectables as well as skin treatments, you sort of had to choose one or the other and you know, maybe be quite restricted, have a bit of a ceiling on you for, you know, where you could fit in that space. So I ended up actually just going back to the hospital because I didn't know what to do. And then, I constantly was getting contacted by existing patients that I'd been seeing for quite a few years and being asked, where are you? What are you doing? And I thought, well, what if I just did it as like a little hobby? So I got myself a little room within a practice, a sort of medical practice. And I thought, I'll have to work at the hospital, you know, to make ends meet. And, you know, I'll try and run this little side hustle thing 1 day or 2 days a week maybe. And so I started that, and I think I was sort of 3 weeks in when I'd left the hospital because I was,
oh my God,
you know, people were finding me and coming in, and it was really lovely. Like, I'm so privileged that my husband was in the position that he could support me in doing this, and the business, the clinic, could grow organically. There was no pressure, you know, to make money, and I guess I always had the hospital to fall back on, which is so good. And so, you know, it grew organically, and then we ended up saying, oh, well, we better get a bigger clinic. And in hindsight, that was probably the wrong decision because the next clinic we got was only 2 rooms, and we were only there 3 weeks and had sort of figured out that one probably wasn't big enough either.
My God.
So, but you know, you live and you learn.
You don't know, right? Like in hindsight, and you think, but you wouldn't have like sort of stood in your 1-room clinic and gone, I need a 6-room clinic. Like that would have just been,
it would have been insane. And I think like, you know, this is the thing, like I was never ambitious. I never had business at the front of my mind. So when I chose the 2-room clinic, I was like, oh, it's ginormous. I could have an LED and do another treatment. Like, I was like, that's insane.
And someone in the waiting room, like, look out.
I know. I was like, this is huge, you know. Little did we know, it was probably in hindsight probably a good decision for business, because little did we know we were about to go through, you know, lockdown after lockdown and the whole COVID experience. So in the end, it didn't end up too bad. But we also, in the back of our mind, knew that if we wanted to take this business, which it now is, as far as it could go, well, the clinic that we'd signed on to for clinic number 2 was probably not big enough. So anyway, we stuck around for quite a while, and about a year ago now, we've moved into our forever home, which is a ginormous clinic. It's ginormous.
Huge.
It is huge. But yeah, look, it's really good.
How many treatment rooms have you got?
We have 5 treatment rooms and 3 sort of private seating. So we put numbing gel on and you sit out there and have a lovely cup of tea and something like that. And you've got
a huge waiting area.
Huge waiting area.
Huge reception.
There's potential for another room if we ever needed it.
Amazing.
There's a photo room. There's an office. There's a kitchenette. Like, you know,
it's massive.
It's like the mansion of clinics. And we're don't get me
You're
wrong.
not moving.
We're never moving. Oh, I'm never moving again. I'm put that to bed. That is it.
In writing.
Signed on the dotted line. And like, you know, do not get me wrong. We're growing into the space. We're certainly not there yet. You know, it's
But you knew you had to make that kind of long-term decision of instead of band-aiding, maybe moving to a 3-room clinic next, that you needed to actually make that and like you said, grow into it.
And I think this is the thing, like I started to learn to wear a business hat. Like I started to go, okay, well, you've always said you didn't want a business, but here you are.
You've got one and you happen to be really good at it.
Oh, thank you. Well, you know, you just have to get up and carry on. So I ended up just going, right, well, that is ginormous and we could never grow out of that, and moving is the most stressful thing ever. So we'll never have to move, so sign that one and we'll go in there.
Done.
And you know, I was lucky enough that a lot of the fit out was already done and it needed a lick of paint, and here we were in this ginormous, beautiful clinic that is now our forever home.
Yeah. And so great that you've got that room to, you know, bring on more staff. Like you said, if you need to add in extra treatment rooms, you've got the space to do it. So it can grow with you as well.
Yeah. And I think if I look back, you know, I would never have backed myself back then for
God,
something like that.
God, no.
And I feel like if I did, it probably would have failed anyway. So the way it's grown has been good in a way.
Totally. You had to be ready for each stage.
Totally. We're like a toddler business now. We're learning.
We're learning.
We're
Totally.
getting there.
Now, tell us about how you've built your team of staff. So positives, negatives, onboarding experiences.
Yeah.
How many staff are you up to now?
So there's myself and 4 other nurses now.
Incredible.
But I have gone through staff, you know, to get to this point. So I added it up before I came on. I think I've been through 6 or 7 nurses to then to more nurses to then get to this solid point. I feel like at the moment we're at a really good place and I've learnt a lot. But staffing is really, really, really difficult.
Hope you're enjoying this podcast. Today's episode is sponsored by the Fit Injector Clinic mentoring program, business mentoring for cosmetic nurse injectors. If you are a registered nurse who wants to become a cosmetic injector or an existing cosmetic injector who wants to start their own business or scale up your existing business, I have just launched an online version of my mentoring program with video modules for you to work through in your own time, downloadable information for you to keep, and a strategy call once you've completed that with me for 30 minutes to answer any questions that you have about starting or scaling up your business. If you want to get started, email me at admin@thefitinjector.com.au. Staffing being the hardest thing, and I think in our industry, but I think this relates to every industry. Like anyone I talk to that has a business says staffing's the hardest part.
And, you know, you get good people who come on board and, you know, they're fantastic and they interview really well and they're really keen and, you know, they get going. And then I think there's a lot flashy about our industry. It's really trendy at the moment. And like we can go into that when you and I started in this industry, nobody even knew what we were doing. Like, I don't even know if we quite knew what we were doing or where we were going.
And we weren't called cosmetic injectors.
We were just nurses
that just worked at a clinic.
Yeah.
You didn't want to do night shifts, so you worked there.
That's right. And so I think, you know, sometimes we get staff who, you know, they're really, really keen, really, really on board. And then, you know, for whatever reason, once they really get into the crux of it and they understand it, they then decide, oh, actually it's not for me and I don't want to do this. And, you know, it's not actually always easy work. It can be very emotionally draining.
And I think people don't realize that.
No, not at all. Like how many years have you been doing this now?
So 9?
Yeah. So I think I'm about 18 months behind you.
Yeah.
So, you know, I've been doing this quite a while now, I think. And certainly peaks and troughs as to how I feel about it. But it is on a whole quite, you know, emotional work and you have to try and connect to people and to build those relationships that go over, you know, we're heading towards a decade with these people, these patients of ours. And I think people are a little bit when they work alongside somebody that has patients that you've known for, you know, over 5 years, and then you've got a new person there and they want that relationship, that connection, but they want it overnight. And, you know, and the relationship I have with somebody that I meet on day 1 compared to the relationship I have with somebody after 5 years, it's very different. And there's a level of trust and understanding. And I'm not saying that, you know, we reduce professionalism or anything like that, but there certainly is a long built professional relationship. And I think
you get to know your patient, the kids' names, the dogs' names, where they go on holidays every September.
Not only that, like, you know, you can treat their children and then watch them grow up.
I know.
And, you know, I've got patients who are now the kids of, you know, the mum that, you know, that I've
got
been
like
treating.
generations
That's
coming
it.
through.
Yeah. So, and I think that sometimes with staffing, particularly the nursing side of things, you know, if you find people that are really committed, but they have to have that understanding that it's a long-term plan, that it's not, you know, I'll get my hands on a needle and then I'll be fantastic overnight and I'll have patients and they walk in the door and sit on the bed and say whatever you would like. And it's like, no, that type of relationship takes years and years and years and trust. And, you know, that some people probably never even make it to that type of relationship. I feel really lucky that, you know, that I have a handful of patients that I do have that connection with. But when it comes to staffing, I think it's really tricky, and it's gotten even harder. It's such a competitive industry.
Yes.
As a small business, we obviously have to protect ourselves with things like non-competes, which makes us feel like, you know, we're terrible people, and really all we're trying to do is have an ask of loyalty and, you know, trying to protect our small businesses.
Well, we have to protect these businesses that we've built. Like you said, it's super competitive, and we can't have people just taking our whole patient list and opening a clinic next door.
And this is happening, right? This is exactly, you know, like I feel like we were a part of a generation who did that, and it's still going on, and I see it all the time online on the forums. You know, I've just gone out on my own, and I've been doing this for 2 minutes, and you know, I don't have any patience, and it's like, I think you've got to, you know, it's good to start somewhere with somebody who has a patient list. And so I think, you know, some of the biggest things I've learned are not to get too sort of upset if you know, a year in or 2 years in, they sort of go, oh, look, it's not for me, and they want to move on. I think, you know, just be really grateful, and I am, to every nurse that's joined me so far, like for the time and the energy and the effort that they've given to my business, and just see it as well, thank you so much, and then try and pick myself up and move on to the next nurse.
Totally. And even though like we're in it for the long run, we can't expect our staff to be in it for the long run.
Yeah. And I think this has been really hard for me to get my head around. Like,
because you think you employ someone, you're like, they're going to be with me forever.
But also like, I don't know about you, but like my work ethic, like I have an exceptional work ethic. When I worked at the hospital, when I worked for somebody else, I worked my butt off in whatever job I did. But what I've realized actually is not everybody is like that.
No.
And you actually can't expect it.
You can't. Yeah. And so unfortunately that part of it, you've actually got to lower your expectations a little bit. Yes.
Yeah. So I guess what I've done is I don't hire quickly, hire really, really slowly.
Yeah.
I've stopped sort of advertising for nurses where I don't have to. Like I guess if I had to, if I got myself into a position where I had, you know, some nurses move on for whatever reason, then I would have to advertise. But I've sort of started to use a little bit more word of mouth and sort of started to try and get people to come to me a little bit more, which at the start that was never happening. I think, you know, at the start I found it really hard to get anybody to be interested in working for me because I guess I was a bit of a risk to take, you know.
New business.
Oh,
like,
is she going to be able to pay the bill? Like, you know, like that's a bit, I don't think I'll work for her. I'll go work for someone a bit more solid, which I can completely understand, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, now.
So now you get people approaching you.
I do now, which
is pretty cool.
It's pretty cool. Yeah. It's pretty
and then
cool.
at least that is a bit of a filtration system, isn't it? Because instead of you sort of throwing it out there and you kind of get, you know, everyone that wants to be an injector contacting you, you get people who are like, I want to work for you. I've done my research. I know who you are. I know who your business is. And you're like, okay, well, that's great because you need them to be interested in you.
Exactly. And I think if they're already on board with your vibe, your mission, where you're heading because of maybe what they've seen on social media or they've had a chat to a few other people, you know, they're already going to tick a few boxes before they're there for the interview.
Totally.
But yeah, like I've certainly had a few doozy interviews. I've had a few some really crazy requests come through in terms of employment. As I said, I think it just comes with part of this industry becoming quite trendy and people sort of thinking that maybe we make $1 million, you know, every single day.
And take selfies.
And walk around with our Louis Vuitton bags. But really, I don't know about you, but I'm working my butt off still.
Yeah.
I think we will be.
And that thing of people thinking, you know, like the price that we say charge a client, that we're running off to Westfield with that.
Yeah.
And what they don't realise is that price we charge a client filters out and we barely get a cut of that because by the time you've like paid for product and wages and rent and all the things.
And plus we're nurses. So, you know, we have to pay an accountant, a bookkeeper. Exactly. I don't know how to do all that stuff.
You have to outsource. There's just so many factors. And I think like I've certainly interviewed people who sort of come in, especially for contractor roles, and they're wanting this ridiculous amount of commission.
Yeah.
And sort of saying that other clinics are paying that. One, I'm like, are they really paying that?
Yeah.
Or like, but I'm like, I just can't match that as a small business.
Yeah.
Because again, they just see like the price that we charge the client and the commission they get on that, and they don't realize all the other stuff that comes into that.
And I guess neither did I.
Well, I didn't either. And because I've been an employer, I've been a contractor, and then had my own business. And it wasn't until I had my own business that I'm like, whoa.
Wow. Yeah.
And so I think like I've had to like educate some people in interviews that just like I actually can't match that.
We'd actually be losing money.
It would cost me to have you.
Yeah, exactly. And I think part of it also is like, you know, well, we all know there's so many mentorships. I know you run one yourself, you know, and we have to understand that when we take somebody on, then they're getting the skills and the mentorship from us as well, which, you know, that's valuable. Time is money. So if depending on how much money, how much time I'm going to need to spend on somebody to get them up to scratch, and then how long are they going to stay there? Am I going to get a return of investment, or am I not going to get a return of investment? So that will sort of, you know, I guess guide my decision in who I employ, who I think, you know, and you can't predict the future. So it's so hard.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think with every employee, you're taking a gamble.
You're taking a risk every time.
Yeah. And so we do these things like the non-competes and the, you know, maybe I know that there's some contracts that'll have, you know, if you leave within X amount of time, you've got to pay me back this much money for the training and your time and things like that. And I think that's just how it has to be.
And I think like you said, as the industry gets more competitive, I think that, you know, every clinic should be implementing these sorts of things to protect themselves, basically.
Yeah. And I think, you know, I've had a bit of HR advice, and I've had a bit of legal advice on this topic, and you know, they all agree, like at the end of the day, we have to protect ourselves and our business. And so I guess from there, so from interview stage, I then work on an onboarding program. And the way I sort of do it now is I engage with all of my reps, get the date they can come, put together the onboarding program basically as quick as I can and as quick as I think the nurse could handle it. And then, you know, it's given to them, and it's sort of given them, you know, the option. You either want this or you don't. This is the program. This is what will get you up to speed. And, you know, I think if they really want the job, they'll commit. And I've certainly had people say, oh, no, well, I can't do Tuesdays. And I'm like, well, there's 3 dates on Tuesdays. So if you can't make that work, then, you know, we probably can't work together. And it obviously as we grow together as employer-employee, there's more flexibility, but I think there needs to be that initial sort of commitment. Yeah,
sort of like come to the table, you know, show me, you know, what you can do here, and then like I will, you know, recognize that and invest in that.
And also what you know, like in terms of remission rates and things, like we have, you know, we have people who come that are brand new to even nursing and brand new to cosmetics or dermatology nursing or whatever it is, and they're expecting really, really high remission rates from day one because they've heard all this goss, I guess, that, you know, cosmetic nurses, cosmetic nurses make a bomb and all this, and, you know, you work in a clinic, you'll take home whatever it is a day, and, you know.
But like if you're not experienced, it's like say you come from the hospital, you're quite experienced, but you come to this industry, you're not experienced. You can't really be expecting that the pay to match that. Like, yes, we'll build you up to that.
That's it.
But you're starting from scratch as a cosmetic nurse.
Yeah. And I guess I see my staffing situation as a bit of a pyramid. So, you know, when I start you, regardless of your skill level, you sort of need to work within, you know, my clinic. You may have done things before, but do you do it the way that you know we do it here? Can you adhere to our policy? So, you know, I start everyone on award wage, and at the end of the onboarding program, it's reviewed. And I have a very clear structure on what a junior and intermediate and advanced nurse is. So
they know there's a progression.
They know there's progression. They know what it is. It's very clear. It's outlined for them. And, you know, at any stage they feel they're moving towards the next level, then obviously as a business owner, the remission rate will be able to reflect that next level, because they're going to be, you know, bringing more money essentially into
they're
the
be
business.
Booked up and and on that too, it also has to reflect that when they first come into your clinic, they're not going to be booked up with patients. It takes time for them to build up that rapport.
Not only are they not booked up, they're actually taking our time.
Yes.
So they're not, it's a double whammy.
Exactly.
So, you know, if we're the ones
blocking
training
yourself off to do training and totally.
So I think, you know, this is where I learned so much in those first couple of years of employing staff. And, you know, I've been overall really, really lucky. You know, the staff that I've had come through have been fantastic, and I've not had, you know, too many issues. I guess it's just the things that you learn as you go and you get better at it and refine the process and things like that. And, you know, we're onboarding people a lot more smoothly and, you know, having this, you know, junior advanced nurse system and the intermediate in the middle, we've been able to then implement that it's not just me training the junior nurses. You know, if you're moving to an intermediate and an advanced nurse, then part of the expectation is that you also help mentor the nurses below.
And then that's great for you, because then you can really sort of like delegate out those training roles to, like, when you have new people coming on board, instead of it just being you all the time.
All on me. So I think we've sort of I think we're at a happy place with that, with staffing and with figuring out sort of how to get them in, how to get them into the team. And also, like, I love people. I often always get along with nurses. Nurses are such good people. So it's nice to just have a system where you go, hey, here's the system. This is what it is. And you sort of weed out the people that don't want to be there by saying, this is the system, this is what it is. And if you want to come on board, if you don't.
So just being really upfront with people as well.
100%.
And you've grown a great team.
Thank you.
You're doing great.
They are bloody fantastic. I love them to bits.
They really are. And a little bit on how we met.
Yes.
So
we go way back.
I was going to give a bit of background on that. So Shelby and I met in the hospital system in pediatrics in Canberra.
Yes.
And on night shifts, because I was working for a clinic at the time as well as the hospitals. And we used to chat about skin on night shifts.
Well, I think I was in desperate need of skin advice because, like, I never planned this career for myself.
No.
I was pretty happy within pediatrics and the emergency department.
Yeah.
And here came this cosmetic go hospital nurse Flick who knew about how she could help my acne. And I was like, fantastic. So in between checking out OBS, I would quiz you.
We were talking about skin.
Yes.
And then you became a patient at that clinic that I was working at. Then you started working there.
Yeah.
And then we both stayed there for years and years and years.
We did. I don't know about you, but, like, I never had any plans on leaving there.
No.
Ever.
I loved it. I had a fantastic time, and I learned so much.
So much.
And I think I get asked still to this day, like, where did you get your background in skin? Because it's not that normal for an injector.
No.
Especially if you go and work for a chain clinic or something like that. Like, you are just an injector. You don't get that skin background. So I look back and I know that I was very privileged to have that experience.
Lucky. We were
well
so
before
lucky.
It was cool, well before we weren't even called cosmetic injectors, you know, and we were predominantly doing skin.
Oh,
like,
we were.
Back in those early days, there was honestly only a handful of, like, women who maybe in their 50s who were doing anti-wrinkle maybe like once a year.
On their birthday.
And we didn't have telehealth for the doctors. Remember, like, a doctor had to physically, so it'd be like you'd consult them and you'd go, okay, well, can you come back next Wednesday at 12 when the doctor's here, get your script, then book in the next week. So it was like, it was so much.
Clunky.
Not like these days, oh, great, we're going to do that. Yep, here's the doctor. It's just come such a long way. So our focus and where we got that background, because we were just doing skin predominantly.
Skin. And I think, like, I'm so grateful. I don't know about you, but I am so grateful for that experience. The upbringing that I had in this industry. You know, I don't feel like, I think we were aware of, like, clinic targets and things like that, but I don't think money was really forced down our throats.
No.
I think, you know, we were just there to care for people. We were
Yeah.
there to care for their skin.
Yeah. And I loved it. And I loved the fact I
loved
didn't have to do night shift.
Oh, it was the
And
best.
for myself too, like I started showing interest in, you know, these things because I had like adult acne.
Yeah.
My skin was just awful from living in Darwin for 3 years.
Yeah.
And then when I realized like, oh, nurses can work in this space,
Yeah.
can do day shifts. So
Yeah.
not only did I love like learning about it and treating the patients, but actually doing the treatments on myself and seeing that transition in my own skin.
Absolutely. And
It's just amazing.
I think, you know, like I remember sort of being told at one point, you know, oh, eventually, you know, you'll learn how to do injectables.
Yeah.
And, you know, I was sort of like, yeah, okay,
cool.
Like, you know, not
But
a
it wasn't
massive
this us
deal.
like, oh, we have to learn injectables.
Yeah,
like
quick,
we were
quick,
just so
quick. Yeah.
happy with
We
the
were.
lasers and the peels
I really, really enjoyed my time
yeah.
doing that. And I think that's where I learned. I was quite young when I started.
Same.
And I think that's where I learned how to communicate with people and how to develop a treatment plan that would work and what treatments could be done with what treatments. And, you know, because we had quite a suite of treatment modalities within the clinic, we were so lucky.
Yeah.
We got to know those treatment modalities, plus, you know, maybe their sister treatments that we maybe didn't have. So our knowledge of the whole, you know, realm within the industry, I feel like we had a really good start.
Yeah.
Yeah,
totally. And then to be able to open these businesses where then we could cater for both the skin treatments and the injectables, and where we're sort of seeing this industry go is it's sort of the last few years it's been very injectable focused.
Yeah.
But
I think we're
I don't know
coming
about
back.
you. My patients seem to be doing this flip
Yeah.
where they're kind of like, yeah, like I love my injectables, but actually I want to try.
Yeah.
Like they're kind of wanting to get out of the inject room and they're kind of wanting to come and see what's going on in the skin rooms now.
I completely agree. Like I have this thing with the girls. I'm always saying like multimodality approach. You know, I think, you know, we can all. It's so trendy now, injectables. I don't think we really have to, you know, sell it. It sells itself. But getting people's understanding and their knowledge around even using some good quality skincare.
Yeah.
Like
just take home 2 new products.
Take home 2 new products. And you know, this was our bread and butter.
Yeah,
I
know.
You never sent a patient home without good skincare.
without the essential 17.
Exactly, right? Like and you know, like
but it was just like a no-brainer. Like every client would walk out with a huge new
amount
pack
of
of skincare. They'd be on this plan of like
fortnightly treatment, 2 treatments every time they came, and let's book you out for the rest of the year. Like,
exactly.
But like let's be honest, like their skin was bloody good,
exceptional.
Like, it works.
Yeah.
So
that's where I feel because the focus was skin, we didn't heavily rely on the injectables.
No, and I think, you know, I don't know about you, but I get a lot of patients that come in, and I think because of our upbringing in the industry, we don't think this way, but people are coming in nowadays going, which one treatment do I do? Which one? They want to see a before and after for one treatment.
Yeah.
And I find that really hard.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, no, that there's not one treatment. It's a course of treatment.
At some point, I probably want you to try everything that I offer.
Yeah. If you want the best skin, if you want the best outcomes, a bit of everything is going to be the best solution.
Yeah. And I think after the last couple of years, especially like new patients coming in, I've sort of got 2 groups of patients. I've got patients who are really wanting skin focus, but then I've got patients who've obviously only been doing injectables at, you know, other clinics for years. And they might come in and they go, oh, do you do skin treatments as well? And it's like this, like, they can't sort of believe it that we don't just do injectables.
Yeah. And I think also, you know, obviously our industry has become quite large over the last couple of years.
Huge.
And there's a lot of different people doing skin treatments, whereas injectable treatments, it's predominantly nurses, doctors, maybe the odd dentist nowadays.
So maybe it's that people are a little bit surprised, like especially us in the industry, nurses, that we do all of it. That whether we're doing your anti-wrinkle or we're doing your chemical peel, you're going to be treated by a nurse. Yeah.
So
it is a point of difference.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think not to say, you know, I have a dermal therapist within my clinic and she's fantastic and they have a wealth of knowledge themselves, and not to say that they don't, but I think the nursing background brings a certain, you know, flavor, certain care, understanding of a person as a whole.
Totally.
And I think, that can only help.
So now we're going to go into a little bit of real talk.
All right.
So
let's do it.
We obviously have known each other for years.
Yeah.
But in the last, 17, 18 months.
Yeah.
We have sort of connected on a completely different level.
Yes.
Because we both had our first children.
We did.
And who are very similar in age. And we both had trauma around our births.
Yes.
And we both sort of paused. And
deep breath.
We sort of have this understanding, like obviously our trauma was very different, happened around our births, but how we had to, when we both probably just wanted to crawl into a hole and not come out for a few months and not see the world, we both had to put our big girl pants on very soon after that trauma and get back in our clinics. Yeah. And the fact that these experiences suddenly became very public with our patients, with our staff, even on social media.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's something, like, I just get goosebumps.
Me too.
It's like, I know.
My eyes start going watery.
Like, I know, like, you and I have never really had to speak in depth about what happened to each of us. Yeah. But I think, and obviously, like, our experiences are very different. Yeah. But I think, I always just knew in the back of my mind, bloody hell, that must be hard for Flick. And I knew, and I was
thinking the same thing about you.
Yeah, and I could feel that. And we would send each other these messages, like almost like little pep talks. Yeah, like come
little,
on,
like check-ins.
Yeah, like hey, are you sane today? Like you're right.
You're still going.
Yeah, you're still
Did
going.
you get through the week?
Should we check into the mental asylum together, or should we?
I could have gone
keep
skipping
working
in there with you.
Yeah. So I think like the care factor around work, the business, all of it just sort of went from I'm pedal to the metal usually, 100% motivated, 100% of my time. I have this thing in the clinic with the two beautiful ladies that help me manage my clinic, Kate and Louise. And I have this thing in the clinic where I'm only allowed to have a Monday list. So I can only give them a list of work on Mondays, because otherwise every day I go in like, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to do. And I want to do it now. And,
so they've had to cap you.
I'm capped. We have a Monday meeting and I have a Monday list. And then it's the only time I can give a list, and then we check in next Monday. So if it's Thursday I come up with something, it's got to wait till Monday.
They're like, no, shut that down.
Yeah, shut that down. Well, I don't even say it. I'm getting really good at it.
I've got to hold that till Monday.
Yeah, that's right. So to have these feelings of and to give a bit of context, I had a very traumatic birth. I suffered a cardiac arrest. I had CPR. I died on the table. And, there was times where my family and my husband were told, I'm not going to make it. And so to come back.
It doesn't get easier every time you tell me that.
I know. It's pretty full on even to say it. Yeah. But I've said it so many times. And to sort of come out of that, and I had lots of physical injuries along with emotional injuries, plus, 5 days I missed my newborn's life, so I couldn't hold my baby at the start, and to come back from that, and pre-birth I had this, idea in my head about how everything would go, and I'd twiddle back into the clinic, and I'd, slowly just slip back in, and everything would be fine. And then, postnatal depression, anxiety, dealing with PTSD and trauma and physical trauma as well. Yeah. And then to sort of have to try and care about my business and my staff. Not to say that I don't care about them. I did. Yeah. And, I was eternally grateful for them to have kept it going the way they did. They did a beautiful job in my absence. Yeah. But to have a care factor, and then, as you say, to sort of feel like you have to explain yourself to your patients and, your world about, why you haven't sort of been your normal, 100 miles an hour self.
Yeah, like we said off air, where you kind of feel like you were there, but you were so distracted. It's kind of like lights are on, but no one's home. And I look back and I'm like, who was I?
Yeah, and I think, it was really foreign for me to go to work And I could feel it. I could feel it happening, like to go to work and to feel like, yeah, I still love this.
Yeah.
But I don't love it.
Yes.
Like I don't have the hunger and the drive and the you know, real go-getter attitude that I had.
Yeah.
And I, you know, the trauma took that from me. And I ended up having quite a big mental breakdown.
Yeah.
I think really it was burnout and maybe, you know, obviously a bit of the other stuff as well. And I took 3 months off at our busiest period.
Yeah, Christmas, right?
Yeah, Christmas. So October last year, I took 3 months off.
And you were told like you've got to step out, otherwise.
Yeah, like you're gonna end up, you know, literally in the asylum. And you know, and that's
not voluntarily.
And we're not, and not to joke about you know, facilities like that. You know, I actually did end up in one of those, and they're absolutely necessary, and you know, the people there are fantastic.
Yeah.
But yeah, like to have a small business and to have to keep on keeping on. And I remember dealing with a bit of a staff situation, a HR situation, and I wasn't myself. What was I doing dealing with that? But who else is going to deal with it? Who else is going to do it? No, it's on you. You've got to. And so like I learned a lot about myself. I'm not invincible. I have to take time for me. Yeah. You know, burnout is a real thing. And, you know, even when you are used to 100 miles an hour, you can crack.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I made a really hard decision and I took the time off. Yeah. And I started doing yoga, which was weird.
That's weird for someone who doesn't like to stop.
It was very bizarre. And I went to a lot of therapy and I got myself sorted, and, you know, and then I came back in February, and although, you know, the team did a fantastic job, it's my business for a reason. And the way I run it is obviously, you know, good for business too. And
exactly.
I came back to a pretty crumbled business. Yeah. So that was really
that's hard.
A bit of a funny one, because it was like, well, I feel really good because I've had some time. I needed that time.
Yeah.
But then also
at the detriment
for your business. Yeah. But this is the reality, and I've sort of done a lot of work on not dwelling on it and trying to see it as, all right, well, that's day one again. Happened. And here we go, off we go again. And, you know, put some systems in place and put some, you know, and just learn from it.
I guess learn from it. And then if you did ever have to step out of your business again, you've hopefully built up those systems where you don't come back to a crumbling situation.
And just sort of the awareness that, you know, this stuff is hard, and, you know, this trauma that I know you have and I have, it's in our back pocket. Yeah. We actually don't get to just leave it behind. So we have to learn how.
You don't get over it. You just learn to live with it, actually.
I completely agree. Yeah. And, you know, still to this day, in the early days, every patient wanted to ask me about it, which I found really okay in the early days. Yeah. Because I think I was still really in it.
Yes.
And I was like, okay, like I was sort of probably still a bit manic.
Yeah.
And then as time went on, it sort of became like, it was like a bit of a news story. Yes. Like, oh, tell me about what happened.
Yes.
What happened? Do they know what happened? Why did it happen?
Sort of like, you get really tired of talking about it.
You do. And all of a sudden these people that I've got these really long term, and I know for them they've only asked once.
Yeah.
But when we see, you know, 12 people a day and half of them have asked, you know, I'm now reliving a traumatic event 6 times.
Yes. And our days are exhausting. Yeah. Let alone having to.
And people, you know, I think after COVID in particular, people went through so much.
Yeah.
And so I think it's almost something people just want to connect.
Yeah.
And when you've got a shitty story to talk about and they've got a shitty story to talk about, it's not that it's a bad thing that we're all connecting.
No.
But it's just made it really obvious to me that I have to then take a minute afterwards and be like, all right, I've just delved into really personal trauma.
Yeah.
And, you know,
And
that
you've sort
was
of got
full
this
on.
like 30-minute anti-wrinkle appointment,
Yeah.
and 29 minutes has been like
Yeah.
a psychology session
Yeah.
for both parties.
That's right.
And then you're like 1 minute for injection.
Yeah, well, inject it, and then it's like, you know, okay, see ya,
See you next time.
You know,
Like-
yeah, and like it's not that we don't enjoy these interactions.
No.
I feel very grateful that I have patients that care enough to
Yeah.
ask for my health.
Yeah.
You know,
I just think
I'm
it's
very
that-
grateful.
Like say you were an employee in your business, you
Yes.
didn't own it, things wouldn't have to be that public, and you would have
No.
just stepped out of the business, and
Yes.
the owner would have just said, Shelby's on maternity leave. You know,
Yes.
there would have had to be no other context.
Wow! Imagine having maternity leave.
Like,
Flick.
what's that?
Oh my god!
What?
I sometimes think, and you know, like I think there's probably lots of different opinions on this topic,
Yeah.
and I don't want to sound snarky about
Yeah.
people that do. Every mother needs to make the decision that's best for her. But I do feel like because we own businesses, there is literally livelihood on the line. So you are, you know, depending on where your business is up to, you're restricted as to
Totally.
what
How
maternity
much?
leave
Exactly.
you can take, if any.
And I think in this industry, and I've touched on this in podcasts before, is that if we were to step out of the business for 6 or 12 months for maternity leave, because this industry is fast growing, because anti-wrinkle patients come back every 3 or 4 months, we can potentially lose our business if we're gone for too long.
Yeah, and I think like it's cutthroat. It's really cutthroat.
Is.
And if you're not on, and if you're not, you know, doing your social medias and doing your marketing campaigns and updating your website, and not only that, but staying up to date with new techniques.
Yeah, exactly.
You're going to fall behind, and you're going to fall behind quickly.
Yeah,
So
totally.
we have to be, you know, obviously we want to be mums.
Yeah.
We do. But I think, you know, I had another lovely injector say to me, we're just modern mums.
I like that. Modern
So
mums.
I'm trying to take that on because I
I'm a
do get a
cool
lot
mum.
of mum guilt. and you know,
You're a modern mum.
but I'm a modern, I'm trying to
You
be,
are.
yeah, that's what I'm trying to encompass.
Totally. So I'll also give some context because we're on this topic, and I haven't really talked about it on social media for quite a while actually, because
I'm sorry to bring it up then.
No, it's, you know what, it's probably good to bring it up again. I've probably shut down a lot. So mine is that when I was 38 weeks pregnant, my mum took her own life.
Yeah.
Completely unexpected. So my plan was to work literally until the baby was like
Running
coming
out
out,
of you.
right?
Yeah.
So I had to stop work really, really quickly.
Yeah.
So unexpectedly, and it happened in Melbourne, and we were obviously in Sydney.
Yeah.
Had to pull strings to get on a plane at 38 weeks pregnant to get to Melbourne. Got to Melbourne, and I said to my husband, I've got patients tomorrow.
Yeah.
He had to call patients. Now, patients thought he was calling because I'd
You'd
gone into labour. And they're like, oh my God, the baby. And then he's like, well, I have to tell them. And he's like, no, like Flick's mum has passed away.
Yeah.
And so then they're crying. And, you know,
and
these connections that you've got with your patients, like they're crying because they're just like, oh my God. And then I didn't end up having my daughter until I was 42, almost 42 weeks.
Yeah.
So I've already, there's like a whole heap of weeks there that I was still going to be working.
Yeah.
And then, I just, you know, after that happened with my mum, and I was just like, I had that moment of, I just want to stop everything, and I don't think I want to go back to work and this and that. But then it's like, I don't know, the hormones or something. I just went into this mode of like, I've got to get this baby out. I've got to be a mum. Yeah. And then she came along, and then I'm like, I've got to save this business. Yeah. Because I have worked so hard for this business.
Can't let it drown.
This business is what is going to support my daughter and give her the life I want to give her. And so I've suddenly had to go like, oh my God, I've got all this trauma. I hadn't even processed the fact that my mum did what she did, because then I was like, okay, mum did that. All right, I've got to have this baby. Yeah. So I hadn't even processed any of that. And then I'm like, I've got to go back to work. Yeah. And it was, and just like the same, like those first few months was just like going over and over it with every client. And I love that they were just so supportive.
They were trying to give you a
cuddle.
cuddle.
They want to sit there and they want, I got so many hugs, and they cry with me, and they'd share their stories, which it suddenly became so apparent to me
Yes.
how common suicide is.
100%.
Which I didn't realize
Yeah.
up until that point.
And I think to have that being shared with you,
I was
that
just
brings
like,
up a lot more for you as well.
Oh my God. And then
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my gosh, I've just learned about multiple people today who've lost
that
family
I've known
members
for
in this
years.
way. And I was like, and you have no idea. And then you think, wow, and these people, they're parents and they're running businesses.
Yeah.
And they're doing these things. So you're like, okay, so they've been able to get through this or learn
Yeah.
to live with it.
Yeah.
And if anything, that was actually quite inspiring to me
Yes.
in that moment.
Yes.
So in a way, sharing it was really good, but it was also very exhausting as well.
100%.
And then I think like you, I hit that burnout point.
Yeah.
And I don't really remember who I was for those first few months. I think I was just going through the emotions. So
yeah.
I apologize to anyone who did see me in those first few months. 'Cause
Totally.
I don't know who I was. You've got that trauma, plus my birth was not great
No.
whatsoever. It was absolutely awful. And then, you've got your nappy on and your leaky boobs and you're trying to do injectables and, just chaos, right?
Yep.
And trying to learn this new baby. And then I definitely did hit burnout point.
Yeah.
And then kind of shutdown point.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. I did spend
all systems off.
Oh yeah. And I did spend a good year in therapy.
Yeah.
And then weird things happen, don't they?
Yeah.
And then I just got to a point where I was like, I want to grow my business.
Yeah. Boom.
And
we're
then,
doing it.
Oh, we're doing a fit out on a 5 treatment room clinic.
Yeah. And people
crazy.
say, I don't know how you do this.
Yeah.
But the answer to that is, I don't know either.
I don't know either. And it just kind of happened.
And maybe one day, we'll be wise one day.
Yeah.
But I just want to say, so when I found out about your mum, so I was about 4 weeks postpartum at that stage. So I've got the nappy on, I'm doing the bits. And it's funny because there's not many people that I know could step into my business and take over it was me, but you could probably do that. And so I had this, I actually said it to my husband once. I said, I should go and see Flick's patients. I could barely stand up, but this is the sort of community that you and I have. And I didn't say it to you, obviously. And I actually probably could not have done that, to be honest.
You probably couldn't move. Your husband was like,
yeah. But it's
interesting you say that because when I found out about what happened to you, I just remember I just burst into tears and I was still pregnant and I was just like, oh my God. And I'm like, I need to help Shelby. And I'm like this pregnant.
And so this is the thing. We had these mutual,
yeah. And I think our helping was we just had these.
We just knew.
And we were just texting and.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's all we could really do for each other.
It was almost like daily check-ins for a bit there. Just
really. Does your baby sleep? No. Mine either. Okay.
Did you shower today?
Which I think, when we think about it, if we take out all the trauma that we sort of knew the both of us had, they're just normal first-time mum conversations.
Exactly.
Which I think now I can reflect back on and go, oh, Flick was my mum friend.
Yeah.
And she's been my other type of friend for so long. So I'm very grateful for our friendship.
Thanks.
You're welcome. Thank you.
We've come a long way.
We really, really have.
In the last 18 months.
Yeah. But I feel look, here we are. You're in your forever home.
You're in
terms
yours.
of clinics.
We're here doing a podcast.
I know.
The dads have got the babies.
Look at them go.
We can do this.
We can do this. All right, we'll keep pepping each other up. This is literally what our text messages to each other are
just
sometimes.
Hype up.
Yeah.
All right. So, question time.
All right.
Which treatments do you provide at your clinic?
Oh, wow. So our list is pretty big at the
huge.
moment. So all your usual injectables, PRP, skin needling, peels, LED light, radio frequency, carbon facials, body cavitation, so fat cavitation, bioremodeling. I'm sure I've missed something. I don't know. I think that's about it.
Yeah, a lot.
Yeah, a lot.
Pretty much everything.
I pretty well think we tick most boxes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You absolutely do. With the recent regulation changes on the 1st of July, how have you found these have been on your business? Do you feel like you've had to pivot much?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
But I feel like it was all very intense when it all
so much hype
was coming out.
Yeah.
And I don't know about you, but I'm on social media every day.
I
don't think a majority of, people, places, whatever it is, are necessarily sticking to everything.
Yeah.
You know, I guess a little bit of a pivot. We took out some emojis. We, you know, changed some wording, less dancing, less music, less fun stuff.
Yeah.
But on a whole, we were pretty well having majority educational content anyway.
Totally.
And then in terms of in-clinic, I guess a few little changes in terms of like the whole give them the stuff, email them the stuff, text them the stuff. Yeah. So just a few.
If anything, just more paperwork.
More administrative things to do.
And I feel like clinics and patients sort of, I guess, got a bit caught up on social media because I've never seen a regulation change have so much hype online, plus a lot of misinformation out there. It was like Chinese whispers going on.
It was really, really tricky.
But then when it's come down to it, you know, a couple of months on now, in the clinic, patients are really not affected by it. There's a couple of extra questions on the consent form.
Yeah.
They get their follow-up, which if anything, they're actually like, oh, that's really helpful.
Yeah.
Especially like new patients that are coming in who don't know what product they've had, don't know the dose or anything like that. Now they can actually just show you the email of what they had last time. So I think for them it's actually a welcome change.
Yeah, I think for consumers, I don't know if they've even noticed that much
as long as they
changed.
can get their treatments, I don't think they really mind.
Yeah. Like maybe, I don't know, we obviously don't have the experience, but maybe in the cosmetic surgery space there may have been some bigger pivots.
And that's where they're really coming down hard. And I think where a bit of that confusion was that there was, you know, these are the changes for cosmetic surgery. This is for cosmetic injectables. And I think people got a bit confused.
In the middle.
Yeah, about that kind of grey area in the middle. But otherwise it's been fine.
It's been fine. I've not really worried too much.
Yeah. And you know what, for the clinics that are doing the right thing, it's like, you know.
I think that's the thing. And I think the ones that aren't doing the right thing, they weren't before anyway.
Exactly.
So I don't know whether they don't know the rules or they just don't care.
Yeah, exactly.
And really, I try and keep my blinkers on and just do my own thing.
Totally.
I don't really care either. No. You know, that's up to the regulators.
Yeah, if you're doing the dodgy.
Whatever. Yeah.
You do you.
You do you, boo.
Exactly.
I'll do me.
Now, what does a typical day look like for you, if there is one?
Yeah. So we're usually up pretty early with our 18-month-old. My husband will often go out for a walk and we'll get brekkie ready. Then we're go, go, go. Yeah. So we have a nanny. We're very lucky. We have a nanny come to our house and we'll both go to work about 8:30. I 2 days a week work 8:30 till 7 p.m.
That's
so they're
massive.
Pretty big days. And I'll often see anywhere between sort of 10 and 16 patients.
Yeah.
That's
a lot.
On Monday we'll have like an administrative meeting.
Yeah.
Dinner, I try and, you know, I'm in walking distance from my clinic at the moment. So I've literally run home so that I can try and, you know, put my little man to bed or have dinner with him. But yeah, it's pretty hectic at the moment. I also know that the pace I'm doing at the moment, it's not sustainable. So I don't know when I'm going to, you know, cut ties and end this pace, but probably not till after the busy.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's pretty hectic at the moment. Yeah, it's pretty go, go, go. We do have lunch all together in the clinic, which I really enjoy. It's really cute. It's really lovely. And I, you know, I spend a lot of time with the girls at work and I really do enjoy them. Yeah, so it's nice. Like I'm not burning out at the moment. I don't think. I think I'm looking after myself pretty well, but yeah, it is pretty hectic. Yeah. My husband does a lot. I'm very lucky.
He's very good.
He's very good. Yes.
Shout out.
Shout out to Matt.
Now, we've obviously talked a lot about staffing, but the question here is, do you prefer to employ new or experienced cosmetic injectors?
I think I'd have to say new cosmetic injectors, but with nursing experience.
Yeah, so hospital experience.
Yeah, at least I don't mind if it's like GP or, you know, in the community. But at least they've done something. Some type of traditional nursing. I think the reason is, well, what I found out, and I could be totally wrong, I could have just interviewed some dodgies, but I've found the expectation from experienced cosmetic nurses to be really high, and therefore the risk for a small business to take on that type
it can
of
be hard for you to
expectation.
match that if they've got sort of chain clinic expectations for a small business to match that.
Like we touched on it earlier, like some of the commissions that I've been asked to provide. So I don't pay a commission at all. So sometimes that spins them a little bit. And so, I think having a new nurse and then just going through our onboarding system, as long as they're committed and dedicated and, you know, pretty sure they want to do it for a good period of time.
Yeah, that's good. And do you provide cosmetic injectable training or mentoring?
So I do, but I don't really sort of advertise it too much. I have a few people that I work with from like the regions around Canberra who I think struggle to have access to like cosmetic injectable training or that mentorship. I think it's a really tricky space to sort of know where you fall. Like, am I clinically mentoring you? Am I business mentoring you?
Totally.
And do I have the expertise within, you know, the business space to be providing that mentorship? So I certainly, you know, make people very well aware. I've been in business for 4 years. I have not got any, you know, actual business training besides my experience. So I'm more than happy to share my experience, but it is just my experience. In terms of clinical mentorship, I do a little bit of it. But I think, you know, nowadays we have pretty good training. Like
there's so
when
much.
We started,
I know there was like nothing.
Look at it and then go ahead. And it was pretty hard to
see one do one.
Yeah, see one do one. Whereas now we have,
so
like most of the companies come with, you know, clinical education, which is pretty stock standard. So I think then you're just providing that mentorship on the side.
That's great. Thank you so much for tuning in to episode 9 of this video podcast series. You can find us on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple. A huge thank you to Shelby from Cosmetic Skin Therapies in Canberra for joining me today.
Thanks so much for having me.
So good to talk to you.
It's been so good.
I'm so glad I got you on the podcast.
Oh, thank you. Me too. Thanks for having me.
Pleasure. Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Cut.